Strix into play and drain them all the way out. Sean has obviously done that 6 times today. We'll see if he can do it a 7th.
There's a lot of complexities going on and a lot of interactions if you see the Allure deck actually go off. But essentially what's going on here is if you piece together the cards Allure and Imperial Recruiter, you win the game, assuming your opponent has nothing to break it up.
Correct.
And once you get going, there's actually very few things that break it up as well.
Yeah, it takes an interesting set of cards to be able to break it up. And with any luck, we'll actually get to see it in action. Your Recruiters and Dreamstalker, Heartbeat, Parasitic Strix, all that fun stuff. But in the meantime, the thing that this deck can do is actually cast Brainstorm. It has Thoughtseize, it has Intuition to actually be able to find Allurens. It has Cabal Therapy as well. So a lot of discard, plenty of creatures to actually sacrifice to the discard in Baleful Strix, Charlotte's Agent, actual copies of Imperial Recruiter if you have to, wait a little longer to actually get the combo set up. So it's a pretty interesting deck. I've always been a big fan of it myself. Maybe a little too much, but we'll see it in action here, which is the first time I've actually got to cover this match on camera.
Yeah, I was about to mention, for those of you who don't know very much about Allure, the person sitting next to me is actually a large part of the reason it got popularized a few years ago for Grand Prix Columbus around 2010, I want to say.
That's correct. That's correct. I played in that Grand Prix. I won a game, which is that's just really good.
But a testament to the popularity that you instilled. I played against it twice in that tournament. So
how'd you do?
I lost to Dave Williams.
Wow, all right.
And defeated Todd Anderson.
Very nice. Very nice. Somehow I tricked people into playing a really just okay deck.
Not only is it just okay, but it's really expensive too. I mean, it's not easy to fly down all the cards you need for this deck.
It took me a long time to fly down the Imperial Recruiters for that deck. So it was really worth the effort, though. As again, I mentioned, I did win a game, which is really impressive overall. Ended up losing to Combo Elves, piloted by Jeff Blyden.
Nice.
I lost to Doomsday. And then I can't remember the other deck I lost to. I lost to a Rug Delver deck, so that's always a lot of fun, too. Sean won the Standard Open the last time we were actually in Minneapolis, I've just found out. So he's got a pedigree. Yeah. Oh, he's also enjoying playing Allure. Going to cast a Cabal Therapy. We'll see what he's going to name with this. You see a pretty nice hand here. There's a Dark Confidant, Sensei's Divining Top, and Umazawa's Jite. A couple of lands, Wasteland among them. The big question here is, does Schank actually know what he's up against, which is an unfamiliar combo deck? Because right now this looks like, a Bug Delver-esque deck.
Well, if you're on Sean's side of the table here, or rather on Martin's side, if you're really intimately familiar with Legacy, Bayou Island and Cabal Therapy usually means Allure.
Yeah.
But you need to have a pretty thorough understanding of the format to be able to draw that conclusion.
Wasteland's going to take care of the Bayou. Not much of a surprise there. Deathrite Shaman going to eat a land most likely, and will probably allow Schank to deploy a Dark Confidant here. Assuming that's what he wants to do, and that's what he will do. Pass the turn back. Now, Umazawa's Jite can be a little bit problematic for Allure. If it does hit play with multiple counters on it, you can beat 2. It's actually a little more difficult to beat 4.
Yeah, because at a certain point you run out of Imperial Recruiters to go get.
Now, Baleful Strix obviously will make things very, very difficult on Umazawa's Jite actually connecting, so.
But Deck IL is flush with a lot of creature removal. 4 Plows, a Vindicated, 2 Oblivion Rings, 3 Liliana the Veil, a Gatekeeper of Malakir for good measure. Hard to keep a creature in play.
Every time I do see a Gatekeeper, I'm always kind of thrown off by that. This is a Baleful Strix. While to draw a card, pass the turn back. Now, there are some versions of Allure that do play a more accelerated mana base. It opens up to a Wasteland quite a bit, between fetch lands and stuff of that nature. So it's a little interesting.
It appears that Martin has missed his Dark Confidant trigger, although I think
you're a little late.
Yeah, I think we're a little late. Once the card's in your hand and you've been shuffling around a little bit.
I'm already torn. I'm sorry. I am.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Actually, you know what? Sorry, not sorry.
Was not expecting it to go there.
Sorry, not sorry. Isolated Chapel here. There is a beautiful Sensei's Divining Top. That can't be the first time I've brought Natalie and Bruglia to the booth.
I don't know. It's hard to keep track.
There's only one song. It's not like I'm bringing up some, her second single that no one's ever heard. There's Umazawa's Jite. So, threatening. Wow, going to draw a card here. Looks like a copy of Deathrite Shaman. Got a Brainstorm over there as well. He's looking for Allure and Imperial Recruiter. Those are the 2 tools that get the job done. Going to play a copy of Savannah. Going to play a Brainstorm. Excuse me, going to play Charlotte's Agent. So he's going to go Cascading. He will play Brainstorm.
This is the nice addition of Baleful Strix and Charlotte's Agent to this deck. Actually gives the deck a measure of stability. Before you were essentially all in on just establishing the combo. Now you can build up your board a little bit, get some good blockers in play, and then go off at your leisure.
Yeah, that's the part I actually kind of like about the deck. Those cards did not exist when I played the deck a couple of years ago. You know, one of the things that you had to do in that deck was actually play Force of Will to protect yourself and try to force through the combo. But now that you have, you know, you obviously had Cabal Therapy then, but you now have, you know, a card like Ataxian Probe and some other options, Shardless Agent, Baleful Strix. Some real cards here that are actually quite good. So Brainstorm's going to resolve now.
You don't have to play the Havenwood Battlegrounds of the world anymore, since you aren't just all in on trying to kill as fast as possible.
Yeah, there was a versions that played City of Traders and Havenwood Battlegrounds. Gave those a try. I actually played a couple Havenwood Battlegrounds at that Grand Prix. It's pretty sweet, but with how people have actually developed Legacy over the past couple of years, you know, Legacy was an undeveloped format back at that Grand Prix. But now everyone is really, you know, we have Legacy every week, obviously. So, you know, there's a lot of wastelands around and things of that nature.
And people will eventually figure it out.
Given enough time, that's for sure. Jite suiting up. In comes Deathrite. Yeah, easy block there. Death Touch is going to take care of that. 2 counters on the Jite. Schank now, you take a look at his hand. He's got the top out there, obviously. And Jite with 2 counters and Dark Confidant, but he has all lands in his hand. So if Weihe is able to find himself a little allure in action, he could actually have a lot of fun.
I don't know if it is he has a Catacomb or a Rainforest or some such. So
yeah, he can definitely find it, yeah. And he has it in his hand, and I think it's actually safe to just cast the spell. Now, the question, does he know that he's against a black-white deck as opposed to maybe a black-white-blue deck or something like that that could have Force of Will? That's, I think, the big question. But, again, here I think is a situation where he can safely deploy Allurin and just kind of do his thing.
Yeah, I would be surprised. Once you see Isolated Chapel, that's usually a giveaway that this is just a black-white deck.
Yeah. The question is he willing to resolve it? Because he can also see if the coast is clear with the therapy, sacrificing the Shardless Agent.
Well, there's also a risk of him putting this Allurin on the table and then not doing very much, because Martin could very easily have a Vindicate or an Oblivion Ring or such, and then things get much more complicated.
Looks like it's going to be Baleful Strix instead. That's going to resolve. So there's definitely a reason why Weihe did not cast Allurin that turn. That's for sure. Now there's a Deathrite Shaman, so he's just putting some creatures out here to clutter up the board.
Yeah, this is great for him. I mean, again, it's going to prevent Martin from really gaining much traction in the game.
It's going to be a top spin here. I guess it just kind of begs the question, right? Like, you know, why he could have just played Allurin and then just cast the Baleful Strix and the Deathrite Shaman for free. I'm not saying that's the best play. It's just a play that was available to him.
Well, again, Allurin is symmetrical, so you don't know exactly what you're enabling out of Martin's hand.
That's true.
Potentially. And also, I don't know if he necessarily wants to get it exposed to a removal spell.
Gonna spin the top here. Swords of Plowshares, among other things. There's a, ooh, that's a scary card to him.
Martin finally finding a little bit of action here.
It's kind of funny. He actually has access to all 3 of those cards realistically, because Bob will draw 1, draw Step will draw the other, and then he could draw a card with top at his leisure. So if he wants access to all 3 of those cards, he can have it. So he's going to set those. Bob's going to reveal Deathrite. He's going to draw, I believe may have been Swords, though. Yeah, and so he's left him on top of his deck.
It's possible he wants to just clear out some of these blockers and get his Jite going here.
That's very realistic. Yeah, he plays a white Swords, he swords one guy, swords the other guy, equip Jite. Yeah, that's not a crazy play. Yeah, kill that. Get in. There's a block. Pump there. That's going to take that down. 2 counters on the Jite now. And take that down. And now there's a Deathrite Shaman. So if Weihe is actually able to find himself a Imperial Recruiter, it's lights out.
Yeah, that's what's funny about all this. Sean is quietly happy that all this is happening.
Yep.
When the Jite stays in play with multiple counters, it can become prohibitive for Sean to go off. But
here's a Brainstorm. If he finds a Recruiter, it's over. It's a Baleful Strix, among other cards. So going to get to put a couple cards back here. You see the Eternal Witness in his hand. Sacrifice the Misty Rainforest to make it a perfect Brainstorm, then he could deploy a Lurin if he'd like to.
I still think that he probably wants to just be casting his Baleful Strixus and Eternal Witness type cards, build up the board a little bit. And Witness, if he has, I think he just needs to deploy right now, because if that Deathbright Shaman gets active, it's much harder to use.
I guess just my question here is, you know, what's the worst thing that can happen if he plays a Lurin? That's the problem. Like, if I'm in his seat, I'm playing against a black-white deck. It's pretty much established now that I'm playing against black-white because of the Isolated Chapel. This looks like a Dead Guy Ale deck to me. If I play a Lurin, I can play these cards for free, and then he doesn't have a choice. He has to kill a Lurin to even be able to play with me. And I get to play my spells for free, and there's not like any creature that I'd be scared of that he can play. And he's already got a Jite, so Stoneforge Mystic actually doesn't even matter at this point. So he is going to deploy a Lurin. And that's going to be a spin at the top in response. I'm going to kind of go from there. See Liliana, him, and a Scrubland.
Fair enough. And now Sean doesn't have to worry about anything. The shields are completely down.
Yeah. I mean, you get to cast a Baleful Strix. He sacrificed the fetch land. So he reset the top of his deck after resolving Brainstorm. He gets to cast a Strix, cantrip once, play a Witness for free, get back a Strix, hit again, and see if he can actually work himself into an Imperial Recruiter, potentially a Dreamstalker, bounce something. You never know what he's going to find.
But he does have a lot of powerful draws from this spot.
And I mean, the other thing too is just it's rather unlikely that Lurin's actually going to get knocked off the table.
He still should be keeping a backup alert in this world, I feel like.
I agree with that. I mean, if he wants to play around a card like Vindicate. Witness could pick up a Strix here, and he could play that. I think he's considering that option because the big deal here is that he could Witness back a Strix, or he could Witness back a Brainstorm and have to wait the next turn to cast it. And it's obviously much more, appetizing or enticing or whatever word you want to use to actually Witness back Brainstorm and try to get 3 cards deeper in your deck.
Well, because he can play all of his creatures at instance, he can also simply wait right now. If Martin does nothing, then Sean can just untap and go from there.
This is a really nice top couple of cards here. You see a Thoughtseize, a Hymn. He drew a Liliana for the turn. He's only got 3 cards in his hand as Weihe. So the Hymn is actually a little problematic, as is the Thoughtseize realistically, because the Thoughtseize is almost certainly going to take Eternal Witness, so he might be forced now to actually cast Witness into Baleful Strix because he can't afford to get Brainstorm back because he can't cast it.
Right.
And don't forget, with a Lurin, you can play the cards as instants. Creatures that cost 3 mana or less can be played at instant speed for free by either player.
If I was Barton, I would have a hard time turning down grabbing one of these discard spells.
Yeah, me too, especially the Thoughtseize. The Hymn is one thing because it feels a little random. I do get to get 2 or 3 cards, but yeah, I think the Thoughtseize is the one that I would probably want. Sculler's fine too, especially because Sculler's free.
Yeah, Sculler's actually great. I mean, it could potentially provide some utility in breaking up the combo if Sean gets a little sloppy.
He's gonna move the Jite and attack this way. This is interesting. I wonder if we block here. Blocking doesn't seem that great, but it doesn't seem bad either.
I'm not sure what the Strix is going to do if it doesn't block.
Here's a Witness. I think you have to get Strixie here, just because you need something that you can put into play right away. Because if he gets a Brainstorm, I think he has to imagine, I haven't been targeted by a discard spell yet. That's rather unlikely.
Yeah, opponent with a bunch of cards in hand.
Yeah, Charlotte's Agent's not bad. He can cast that, now he gets the Cascade. There's a Cabal Therapy. Gets him by a couple of cards. See if this is going to resolve. And if so, what's he going to name? Sean looking at a couple of copies of Swords of Plowshares right now.
Yeah, not even clear what he would be that concerned about.
Okay, good to go. And he actually does hit swords, cool. So there's just there's a Sculler and there's a Liliana over there. A couple of lands, nothing crazy.
And Sean just needs to build up some blockers here to give himself the most time.
I say put everybody in front. Show him who the boss is. All right, just Charlotte's agent's fine too.
That seems needlessly aggressive.
Look, I like a triple block.
No, I appreciate your style or whatever, but
Don't you judge me. Everybody in the pool. See if he wants to use GT now or not. It also begs the question if Schank is actually familiar with what he's playing against, because if you've never played against a Learn before or seen it in action, it looks really weird.
the most common mistake that I see people make with a Learn is assuming that their cards work.
Yeah.
They think that their disruption works if they sit back and wait on a terminate type effect or something along those lines. It doesn't really work if the Learn player is actually careful.
Here's a therapy.
Please make sure you come up to the stage. Check with us on it.
Looks like Schank knows that he can play his cards whenever he wants, so that's good.
We will need a tax form on file.
I have lands. I'm looking to draw an Imperial Recruiter. If I do, you're dead. And there goes Liliana. Of course, if GT gets those counters, this is where things get a little problematic. There's a polluted Delta.
And you're sort of seeing an issue with the Dead Guy Ale style of deck is it's pretty slow to kill someone. Martin's generated a pretty substantial advantage. I mean, he's had Dark Confidant unchecked in play for multiple turns now.
Yeah, it feels like 3 or 4 turns now.
And Sean just keeps on producing these 2/2s and 1/2s and 2/1s, and it's taking Martin a while to slog through all of this.
Don't you judge his creatures.
Just saying they're not that large. I'm not judging.
And comes the Sculler, which can actually become pretty large. It could become a 6/6. Yeah, block there. Up to 4 counters. Looks like Schank is familiar with what he's playing against here.
Yeah, as you mentioned, getting the Jite up to 4 counters is the flashpoint.
Yeah. 3.
Probably going to want to shuffle there.
Yeah. That's a first for me. Yeah, I sacrificed the March Flats too. Looks at 3 Thought Seizes on a top activation.
Yeah, he knows Sean's hand is empty, so.
I'm going to get a land out. Again, Sean does find the old Imperial Recruiter. It gets interesting. I'm not saying he's going to win the game. I'm just going to say that it gets interesting.
We start entering the complexities of how Martin wants to use Jite to try to break up the combo.
Because he can still win if he finds an Imperial Recruiter from this point. It just gets mighty interesting watching it happen. Swords among the other cards here. Swords is actually a big draw. I think you got to leave that one on top. Fast to turn back. See what the draw is. Couldn't quite make it out. I think it may have been another therapy. It's a Shardless agent. Okay, so he's looking for a Brainstorm-esque card, Coiling Oracle, Baleful Strix, something of that nature. So there's a Coiling Oracle. It's not bad. Let's see what this is going to reveal. That's a copy of Deathrite Shaman. So just gumming things up.
Yep.
So there that is. The old Snake Elf Druid. Ever heard of it?
Yes, I was actually amused by this creature type line quite a bit when I was a player.
Doesn't make any sense.
It's a snake
remotely.
elf. What is a snake elf? That is nonsense.
That's definitely a snake elf. Look at that. How's it a druid? I don't even know what's going on there.
Well, it has to have a profession.
Fair enough. I had forgotten that. Bayou going to come into play. That's green mana, of course, for Deathrite Shaman. This is a black-white deck with just a little touch of green. It's a top activation. A little sloppy, but does find the hymn. Looks like a Batter Skull among those cards as well.
It's the equivalent of human commentator.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you could be human elf commentator?
No, not an elf. That's
Human
not
snake
accurate.
commentator.
No, also not true.
I'm confused.
We can talk about it when we're off air.
Okay, got it. Thank you. I wonder if Chite is looking a little frisky here.
Martin knows he's got to get aggressive at some point here. He can't just sit here all day long.
Yeah, I mean, right now he's just topping like discard spells and nothing of relevance. He's just trying to ride Bob in the singleton Jite to victory.
Even if he found something along the lines of Lingering Souls, it would do a lot for him. Just something to start attacking.
Here it comes. Now the big question is, how on earth do I block, and do I even block at all? Confidant can come all the way up to a 9 toughness creature.
So that means Sean, even blocking with everything, cannot kill it.
But he might be okay with that. That's the thing. Because that would remove some Jite counters.
Just anything to get the Jite as few counters as possible.
Yeah, he might be perfectly okay with this exchange. Now, don't forget Schank has the swords in his hand. And it looks like we're going to see a double block. So here's little pumps. So those are going to die. It's going to go up to 4. So not a lot of work accomplished. Sean really in search of a recruiter right now. He could still go off. Pass it back.
Starting to run out of time a little bit, though.
That's... What are you? You're definitely a spell. I'm almost sure you're a spell. Maybe not. Just pass it back. Spin the top. Batterskull, him, X. I think X is a fetch land for Dark Confidant. So it looks like 0 damage coming from a Bloodstained Mire. Batterskull goes to the grip. Don't want to take 5 for no reason. That's for sure. Spin top again. Him, Lily, Mire.
And once you get to this spot with top plus Dark Confidant, you look at so many cards, take no damage or very, very little damage.
Fetch lands too. Really, really nice.
Only one Divining Top in the list, not a Divining Top deck. But when you get to these spots, it's incredible.
Oh, there's a him. So are we going to see him move? I thought that was a spell that was drawn. Yeah, it is. It's a Parasitic Strix.
Nice.
We'll bring that up because that's better in play than in the graveyard.
So the reason for this card in the deck is, alongside Cavern Harpy, it is essentially infinite damage once you have a Lurn in play. That's what the deck builds towards.
Check that. Infinite life loss.
Sure.
Warship. Come on.
Yeah, doesn't even matter.
Come on. Fortune Thief? I don't think so. Not to mention, you get to go to infinite life. Booyah. Deathrite Shaman looks like it's going active here. There's a GT activation here in response to the Parasitic Strix on the stack. So there goes Deathrite. So no gains, no drains, no black permanent in play. He's getting to the point now where he may not be able to do it. He's getting very close.
You mean Sean?
Yes, where he may not be able to go off because of the GT plus the swords in Shank's hand. Plus GT is going to get more counters. But it can also see a block here, so there's that.
Well, Sean needs to do something to prevent the GT from just getting a ton of counters.
Yeah.
He needs to be periodically blocking.
For example, a block with Coiling Oracle here is not the worst play. I don't like the block with the Witness because I actually think he needs the Witness in play to go off.
It's a valuable piece of backup to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that involves Dreamstalker. That's the reason why. There's a Swords to take care of the Strix. And winning just got very hard. As his win condition is basically out the window. Now, it's not impossible. It's simply improbable. A couple of pumps, a couple more counters. I recommend finding Imperial Recruiter right now. He just has to pass the turn back. And now, Patrick, I think this one is probably wrapped up.
Just too much removal, too many GT counters.
Too many GT counters. There's Meyer. Yep, and that's going to do it.
Yep.
So, Martin Schank is going to win game number 1 here over Sean Weihe.
Just could not find Imperial Recruiter. That's all that was.
Yeah. No, he couldn't find Imperial Recruiter, he couldn't find Intuition. He had 3 copies of that, too. Now, putting 2 of those in the graveyard is not ideal, but he just couldn't find a way to actually go off there. So Schank with Dead Gael going to win game number 1. I'm sure things probably get a little bit more difficult, but we'll take a look at Sean's sideboard first. He's got 3 Abrupt Decays, 3 Force of Wills, 3 copies of Toxic Deluge, 2 Carpet of Flowers, a Thoughtseize, a Peacekeeper, an Intuition, and a Harmonic Sliver. Gotta love the Sliver after he just got his brains beat in by a GT. I hate Force of Will here because the opponent has a lot of discard and you're just in an honest matchup. Abrupt Decay's okay. You definitely got some nice targets. GT, Dark Confidant, Deathrite Shaman, so you got to like those. Deluge could probably catch Schank off guard. I'm still not entirely sure how good it is, but that's a thing that could happen. Then the Thoughtseize and the Intuition are, obviously just powerful cards. I'm not entirely sure when those are going to come in, though, for Sean.
Maybe slightly slower games. Intuition is a little on the slow side.
Sure.
I think it's well suited for this kind of match. Do you like the Toxic Deluge here? Martin only deployed 1 creature the entire game, essentially.
Yeah, not really. I think there might be game states where you can actually catch a couple, but I don't think that's what the matchup's about.
Yeah.
So I don't particularly love it.
Martin's side, we got 2 Enlightened Tutors, an Extirpate, a Pithing Needle, 2 Surgical Extractions, an Aethersworn Canonist, 2 Rest in Peace, a Spirit of the Labyrinth, 3 copies of Zealous Persecution, a Sword of Fire and Ice, and a Helm of Obedience. If you're on Martin's side, what are your thoughts on bringing in something like Surgical Extraction, saying, I'm just going to Duress or Thoughtseize or Vindicate this guy's Alurin, I'm going to get it for the rest of the game, and then it's pretty easy to win?
I absolutely love it because he has a boatload of discard, and it does lead to basically a free win if that happens. Because Alurin, sure, it has the tools to be able to try to grind you out with, Charless Agent and Baleful Strix and Deathrite Shaman and all that stuff. But, what you're basically is a non-functional creature deck trying to play a deck that has GT, Batterskull, Stoneforge, Swords, and a bunch of other stuff. So, yeah, if things break that way for Schank, it's beautiful.
What's also nice here, Martin has an Extirpate, which is not something you commonly see in sideboards anymore. Surgical Extraction could potentially be good here. Extirpate could be even better because Sean's deck is capable of going off entirely at instant speed, so having a split-second mode of interaction could potentially be very valuable in breaking up the combo.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Things seem like they're only going to get tougher here for Weihe, and that's the big issue, right? Where I think game 1 it was very important for him to try to win that one. And obviously, he did try. He just wasn't able to get the job done, and now I'm not entirely sure this matchup's even that good because there's a lot of discard over there. There's a lot of removal, too.
Yeah, he has a lot of precision. The thing is, he doesn't have much in the way of a clock. So he's really leaning heavily on finding one of those things early. That Dark Confidant was in play since essentially at the start of the game. And Sean was still in a position to win several turns later. So even though Sean lost, I don't know if he would feel that bad about the way the game played out overall, because Martin got off to a great start, and Sean was drawing live 8 turns later.
Yeah, I mean, he's still got to keep playing, which is all you can really ask for, right?
Yeah.
Well, these players will be underway in just a moment. Looks like we're laying out some opening hands. And try to do a little unbiased reporting. Big Alurin fan,
yeah.
So. It's kind of interesting.
You're associated...
We got to see Burn.
Yep.
And now we can see Alurin.
You're associated so much with goblins, but not that many people know that this is your real labor of love.
Easy.
This Alurin deck.
We broke up a long time ago. It wasn't even that good of a relationship, really. We made a couple tickets on Moto.
What more can you ask for out of a deck?
You're right. I'm
not
going to say what I want to say. Okay. Here's a Cabal Therapy. We'll see what this is going to need. Let's see a Zealous Persecution, Swords, along with a Tidehollow Sculler, Dark Confidant, GT yet again, a Wasteland, and Bloodstained Mire. Thoughtseize was the name, so Sean obviously has a hand that he wants to protect.
Also reasonable to assume that Martin has 4 copies of it. Unlike a lot of the other cards you've seen where, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, the tough thing here is naming a discard spell against this deck is, it's tough, because there's Sculler, there's him, there's Thoughtseize, there's Liliana. He can really go after your hand.
Could be Duresses for all you know.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. There's a lot.
Marsh Flats is the draw for Schank.
Inquisition could be in play.
That's not out of the ordinary for Legacy. You're just going to play a Bloodstained Mire, pass it back. Weihe going to draw a card. Maybe a discard spell again. Deathrite instead. Drop. Kick it back. Could go firing off of Swords here.
This feels like a really good source of posture target to me. Martin has to break these fetch lands anyway to cast anything, and once you're breaking the fetch lands, then I think this Deathrite has to go.
Yeah, plus you're pretty efficient on the mana then.
Yeah, you go spend something this turn, and then next turn you have access to Confidant or Sculler.
Yeah, I just like a turn of Swords to end a turn, untap, play a Sculler, see your hand, move from there.
Yeah.
Nothing too crazy. You can certainly make an argument for playing a Dark Confidant instead of a Sculler, but when I know I'm playing it's a combo deck, even though it's definitely a turn 4 combo deck because there isn't a card like City of Traders or anything like that in the deck list. Also, even if you played City of Traders, you couldn't play Alurin next turn anyway. I like to actually take a look at the old grip.
There is something about having a blue mana up giving Martin some cause for pause, as he could be walking into a brainstorm here.
And here's the Thoughtseize, which will walk into a brainstorm. So hit 1. Therapy, 2 Decay, 3 Parasitic Strix.
I believe that's the Baleful Strix.
Oh, is that the Baleful one? There's so many Strixies.
Yeah, there's 2 now. Doubled the Strix count.
Well, there is parasitic.
Yeah.
I
That
knew
is-
it was hanging out.
That is a rough hand.
Well, that means you just hid the goods. Well, I hope.
Yep.
Those two cards on top better be real nice.
If I cast this Thoughtseize, I will want my money back.
And do I have to take a card? Take a
Yeah.
Cabal Therapy. What if there's a discard spell? Oh, there's a Wasteland. Jeez. Thoughtseize. Pay 2 life. You may or may not take a card. If you don't take a card, you take 4. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Is that something that you could print? You're the game designer here. Is that something you can do?
Just for maximum rub-ins?
Yeah, it's just like your hand sucks. I'll go to 16.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it again.
All right.
All right. I'm at 13 now or whatever. That's fine. See that? I can see that. Let's work on that R&D.
Okay. I'll send a memo their way.
Appreciate it. Maybe time to fire off another Wasteland?
Well, it's a little rough. You know, Sean has at least 1 more mana to work with. And at some point, Martin's just got to cast the 2-mana spells in his hand. Once he has 2 mana in play, then he can go the following turn, Wasteland you, play another 2-mana spell. So he needs to just kind of suck up that he's going to have a bad turn somewhere along the line here to be as mana efficient as possible.
And there's Dark Confidant. Still not casting that Sculler just yet. Schank not a believer that Sean has anything relevant in his hand.
Well, the more pressing issue might be he just needs to find more of a clock or disruption.
Sure. And for 1 comes the Strixie. You know what Baleful Strix and Parasitic Strix do? They work together.
They are a great combo.
There is Abrupt Decay. Got a land as well? See if Verdant and Misty.
It's not quite Sneak Attack, Bristlebrand, but it's pretty good.
Your mileage may vary. Cabal Therapy flashback here on Baleful Strix. What will you name?
It's not bad to get rid of the Sculler.
It's a card you know.
Yeah.
It's not really protecting anything, but it is the card you know. He also knows the Jite too, which is a huge problem. He actually knows most of the grip, the Jite and the Zealous, and there's the Wasteland over there. He does take the Sculler.
Yeah, Martin has no creatures, and the Sculler is the one thing where if Sean puts Allure into play, it can be potentially annoying.
There's a Wasteland to take care of that, so no Allure in this turn. Let's see if Sean wants to fetch or not. And he doesn't, so he's just going to take a draw. Not quite sure what he found, but it might be time to go fetching, and it is.
Got a Baleful Strix.
You sure it's not Parasitic?
He has that too. He actually has the combo.
They're always there. They run in pairs, even though
Yeah.
there's 1 Parasitic and 4 Balefuls. So my analogy doesn't work. See, I'm looking through here. What land do I want to go get? Basic Island. So he needs to have running green sources to be able to cast Allure next turn. Or in 2 turns, excuse me.
Well, he doesn't even have the Imperial Recruiter at this point. He might be pretty far away from trying to plan that
That's
out.
what Baleful Strix is for. I don't think he drew it. There's a Bayou. Yeah, nothing doing here for Schank. No creatures. Gonna play Misty, pass it back. He's got Zealous Persecution. That's really it. I think that was Imperial Recruiter. For once.
Yes. Still, without a learn, he still may want to go beating down.
Well, I think maybe somebody's gonna search up the old Taiga. Trust me, I've been down this road. It is a sheer delight.
The Taiga in the Underground Sea deck,
Don't judge us.
I like it.
Did it play an Imperial Recruiter? Does that resolve? Yes, search for an Imperial Recruiter. Or maybe we'll search for a Charlotte Station. Oh, the value. Oh, I would have loved that in 2010.
So much free stuff.
My goodness.
It's a windfall of free things. That's free too. They're just giving it away.
This is broken. Wow, the new card. I like the new cards in this deck. I had to play 4 Coiling Oracles back in the day. Ugh.
They definitely have gotten a lot better.
A touch. Schank just draws another land pass to the turn back. Weihe knows that, hey, I know that you have Zealous Persecution, and I'm pretty sure you have nothing else. When are you going to fire that off? Not yet, obviously. Shardless, it's time to cascade. Baleful Strix.
So much free stuff.
Give me that value.
And there's a Harmonic Sliver, which is kind of free in its own way.
Yeah, get that GT off the board. Source of Plowshares to draw here. Schank drawing the bad end here. This deck, he's drawn some removal, but he has not drawn any creatures for the GT. And now the GT is actually basically taken care of by Weihe as he's going to untap. He's going to take a draw here. It's a Brainstorm. That might as well be free.
Yeah.
That's where he's going to start. So hit 1, hit 2, hit 3. I think Allurn was found among those cards.
Correct.
Give me some fireworks. Puts 2 cards back very quickly. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
It's happening?
It's happening. Okay, it's happening. There we go.
It's time. We've waited, you know? We waited so long.
I've been patient. I've waited 9 rounds for this.
And this is only game 2. Maybe we could be going to a game 3 for
I
all we
didn't
know.
even consider that. And the best part is he doesn't even have to like go off now because he can do it in response to stuff. So now Allurn's in play. He has Imperial Recruiter in his hand. And he's going to cast this. And this is where the fireworks begin. Recruiter on the stack. This is Zealous Persecution. He's going to kill all the stuff. And you know what? That's cool.
Yep. This is exactly the moment that I was talking about during game 1, where you think what you're doing matters, and it actually doesn't.
Get another recruiter. Trigger. Search for another recruiter. He's probably going to go through his deck and get every single thing out. But
yeah.
What you want to do is you want to get all 4 recruiters, or as many recruiters as you have first, to turn on your Dreamstalker. And the reason for that is because Dreamstalker does not target. And so there is the 1/5. And you see, Shank's going to take a look at this. We'll do the same. Comes into play. It says return a creature. It doesn't say return target creature. It says return a creature.
Yeah. So, yeah, he simply announces the trigger. If Martin says it resolves, he picks up whatever he wants to pick up.
So he picks up a copy of Imperial Recruiter, plays it back down. And now he's going to get a Cavern Harpy. And what's this do? Well, Cavern Harpy, it's got the gating mechanic. That's from Plane Shift.
Plane Shift.
So, Cavern Harpy will come in and
Such hits as Raising Snid.
I didn't want to bring up the bad ones. It says return a blue or black creature you control to its owner's hand, but it doesn't target. So it comes in and there's a gating effect that's going to bounce the Dreamstalker. Dreamstalker will go back to the grip. You play that again. That goes on. And it says, hey, which one of these things am I going to pick up? Which recruiter? Because again, I don't target. And so then he can pick up the recruiter, search out Parasitic Strix, and go bananas.
Yeah, and he already has the Parasitic Strix. What was also great about this combo is that even if your opponent has something to break this up, a removal spell, you can simply, all right, in response, I'll pay a life with Cavern Harpy, return to my hand, again play it as an instant, pick up Dreamstalker, pick up whatever you're targeting, et cetera, et cetera. So once we get into this spot, you know, Martin thought his Zealous Persecution amounted to some degree of disruption. It does not. You need to have 5 or 6 spot removal spells in a lot of spots. That's why the Jitte matters, because Jitte with 4 or 5 counters on it, now maybe Martin can actually kill enough Imperial Recruiters to keep this thing contained.
Yep. That's exactly it. You see Martin trying to figure out, how am I supposed to break this up when you're actually doing this?
It does not happen.
Yeah, you don't. You don't get to do that most times. It takes a certain subset of cards to actually get the job done.
I know it feels like you should be able to kill stuff and do things here. You cannot.
So there's the Swords that's going to target the Dreamstalker. And it says, I got Parasitic Strix, man. I'll cast this in response. I'll gate this for a bunch, and I will kill you. So we are going to game number 3. Here between Allurn and Dead Guy Ale. If you're Mr. Schank, my best recommendation, draw a creature for your GT.
Yeah. It's really interesting about this Allurn deck. And I think this throws a lot of people off. There's a lot of creatures in it. It requires creatures to go off. The combo is Allurn and then just a sea of creatures. Because of this, a lot of people assume that sweepers and spot removal spells are effective measures at containing it. It is not.
Yeah.
Jitte is a special case because you essentially get multiple -1/-1 effects all at the same time. That's a specific case that gives you disruption against what Allurn's doing, but your hand of a Terminate and a Shock doesn't do anything. That's not helping you.
Yeah.
So
with less Swords to Plowshares right out of the building.
now, Zealous Persecution still might be okay for Martin to bring in here because he has to be on the aggressive side, and creatures like Baleful Strix and Coiling Oracle can trade profitably with some of the stuff that he puts into play. So that's, I'm not saying that Martin brought it in because he thought it would break up the combo, but it's a card you would look at on its face and say, okay, this is going to stop Alurin somehow, and it does not do that.
Yeah, you know, the big question here is when exactly, how do you beat a Zealous Persecution? I think that's probably what people are thinking at home. And so what you do is you go get all 4 of your, I have to actually think about this because it's been actually a pretty long time since I've had to do this. Your Imperial Recruiter for Recruiter, Recruiter for Recruiter, Recruiter for Recruiter, and the last Recruiter's on the stack. And so then they will cast Zealous Persecution, I guess, when you get the Dreamstalker.
Well, no, because if you put the trigger on the stack and they go and Zealous Persecution your board, you can just go get Eternal Witness.
Yeah, okay, got it. Yeah. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
Go get your Recruiter back and reset.
Yep.
So, if you have lots of disruption, that can mean something, but otherwise, forget it.
Here's a Thoughtseize. You see Batterskull Swords, Sculler, Bob, him, and a Wasteland. So a lot of 2-mana spells. Doesn't have another colored mana yet along with that Delta, but that's what Bob's there for. That'll get some work done.
Really important for Martin to find another colored source of mana pronto, because let's imagine Sean takes the Dark Confidant here. He doesn't have a hand. He has a Wasteland, essentially. That's all he's playing with.
I think, do you think in this situation you just take Bob anyway? I mean, him's pretty scary.
It depends how good Sean's hand is. If Sean's hand was fairly bad and slow, then I think you had to take the Confidant there, but if he has a powerful opening, maybe he's fine with Martin just casting a Dark Confidant on turn 2.
Schank just picked up a Thoughtseize. He's going to play Dark Confidant and just kick it back. So Weihe's going to take a draw. It's a copy of Imperial Recruiter. Wonder if he gets a card like Abrupt in his hand right now to take care of that Bob. Maybe just another discard spell? Yeah, another Thoughtseize. That's not so bad at all. Wasteland will prove pretty problematic, but I think you probably have to take the Thoughtseize.
Depends exactly what's going on in his hand, but that's the most likely card that you have to take care.
Obviously, you don't care about Batterskull at all. He's going to take Thoughtseize immediately.
Swiss. Active player finish your turn and then take an additional 5 turns. If you need any help,
Which land do you play? Just got to play Basic Island, allowing himself to get Wastelanded here.
in Swiss.
There's a Bob. Not sure what the mystery card was.
Martin's actually going to have sufficient pressure this game.
Yeah, something he did not have in game 2, obviously. So Bob's going to come in. Let's not forget that Weihe's already dealt himself 5 points of damage. There's a backup Dark Confidant. Going to pass the turn back without Wastelanding. So Weihe will take a draw, see if he has something sweet like a Shardless or a Baleful or something good to do this turn. Because he's got the combo in his hand. He has Alurin and he has Imperial Recruiter. The question is just, can I get to it in time?
Yeah, and Wasteland's going to send him back big time.
Uh-huh. Cabal Therapy, what are we naming? Gonna take the Scullers, a little fist pump. This is 2 for 2, Swords and Batterskull's the grip. But don't pump that fish yet, my friend. There are 3 cards coming over to Shank's hand. Sculler, Vindy. Does he find a land to actually cast these spells? He needs to draw a card first turn. The answer, I think that was a yes, not sure.
That was a Wasteland, which is more than good enough.
Ooh, that is really good, actually. Yep, pop, pop.
This is the Dead Guy AL game plan right here.
Don't pump those fists anymore. You don't need lands. There's a Trop. Gonna play that, pass the turn back. Yep. Ooh, Zealous is huge there.
Speeds up the clock a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Means that Sean can't block with something like Baleful Strix.
Picks up a Thoughtseize too. Now keep in mind, Shank's life total is a little bit low here.
Yeah, I'm not sure if anything bad can really happen if he Thoughtseizes here. The Batterskull is already in his hand. Besides that, the most expensive card in his deck is 3 mana. He's got Liliana of the Veil, Lingering Souls if they're still there. So.
Sure. And there is a Sculler. Here's your hand. Recruiter, Harpy. Yeah, Recruiter, Harpy, Alurin, and a Misty. So he has the combo, obviously. He's just being on the draw has been the huge issue here.
Yeah, a clock plus Wastelands dooms yet another Legacy player.
First time we've ever seen that happen.
Yeah.
That's a pretty unique strategy. I think people should try it.
This is why whenever people complain about True Name Nemesis being non-interactive, I chuckle a little bit.
Yeah. This is a much worse way to go out. Trust me.
I'm just saying it's all the same way to go out.
That's completely fair.
You can't cast your cards don't matter. One way or the other, you know?
Yeah. Weihe's going to draw his card. He's going to play a Misty Rainforest here. He has to simply just kick it. There's a Canonist. That messes everything up, too, and that's going to do it. So Martin Schank is going to win this match. He is moving on likely to top 8. He's going to be 7-1-1. He might be in the same situation here as Sam Black, relying on breakers to actually go his way. But either way, 7-1-1 is a fantastic finish for the Dead Gael player on your left. Sean Weihe loses with a learn. 6-2-1 is the Twins fan.